Hello, everyone. Welcome to the South Central Baptist Area Leadership Podcast. My name is Matt Singleton, and I am the Director of Missions for the SCBA, which is a partnership between the Gambrel and Gonzales Baptist Associations. It's 50-plus churches spanning 10 counties here in South Texas. We're so glad you decided to listen in, and hopefully we can learn together. Well, hello, everyone. This is a bit of a different format for us. We're at a bit of a lull. We've got a lot of great guests coming up, but none this week or next. And so I wanted to try something out by doing a brief podcast, just me sharing some things that I think might be of interest to you, and especially if you're in the SCBA. Not all of these Ministry Minute episodes are going to be specific to the SCBA, but this one is going to be. So I'm going to take a few minutes and talk to you about the results from a survey we did. So our plan is to evaluate the effectiveness of our associations every other year in the spring. And so this spring I sent out, I guess technically it's winter, but I sent out a survey on Google Forms and just putting out as many things as I could think of, asking different questions, a lot of which was more applicable to our associations. It wouldn't necessarily have much overlap with any other ministry or associations, but some of them might. And so I'm just going to share a couple things. First of all, one of the questions that we ask is, which of the following ideas would you be excited to promote that would be specifically to serve your church people? The reason I ask this question is because first of all, we do a lot of stuff for our ministers. And so I don't think we're short on plans or ideas to serve our ministers really well. However, we don't have a lot for our church members. And one, I want the association to add value to the members of our associational churches. And I think that that's really important. One, because we are there to serve them. And two, I want them to just see that there are tangible benefits to being a part of either Gambrel or Gonzales Baptist Association. And so I want to kind of see from I sent this survey to pastors and lay leaders in the churches. So I asked everybody, including other second chair ministers, what they thought. And I gave them a whole list. I won't bore you with the whole list because I added a lot of stuff in there. But there were top four. So I'm going to share the top four answers to what are some things that you would be excited to share with your church family to say, hey, this is something we want to get plugged into. Number one, and this was by far, was a Bible conference. We had 52 respondents to this survey across our 52 churches. So I wish I could say we had one representative for each church. That's not how it worked out. But we did have 52 respondents. And out of the 52, 28 said Bible conference. That was by far the highest one, which I found really funny because we did do a Bible conference back in January. And it's probably, I won't say it was a failure because the content was fantastic. We had one of our pastors sharing the I am statements of Jesus out of the Gospel of John, and it was really phenomenal content. But it was probably poor our poorest attended thing that we've done. And it was kind of one of those, I don't think we'll ever do that again. Like when we were done, I was like, I'm just not sure that this scratched an itch for anybody because the participation was so low. However, we had lots of people interested in that. So I'm thinking maybe it was weather. Maybe it was, I think there was Texas was in the college football playoffs, and they had a game that night. So I think that might have had something to do with it. It was a Friday night and Saturday morning. So, and we scheduled that intentionally for Friday night, Saturday morning, because I wanted bivocational pastors to have something that they could come to, get content that would be helpful to them to prepare a sermon series. And it just didn't work out that way. We didn't help our bivocational guys. Only one of them came. And I thought it'd be great for our church members to get that high level teaching in a condensed format. And they showed by, and again, maybe it was just timing. Maybe that was the problem. and maybe it was the weather a little bit. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Is there a way to incorporate that down the road or do that again in a different kind of format? I don't know. But it was interesting to see that on the survey. Number two was improve the teamwork, which included like staff and church committees and lay teams and things like that. So improving teamwork came in number two with 22 respondents indicating that that was of interest to them. So that was interesting to see. Number three was deacon training, which that one actually made sense to me because I have gotten several contacts about doing deacon trainings, and I've done two in the past year, not the past calendar year, but in the past 12 months or so, I've done two of those, and I've had a couple others express interest, and we haven't nailed down dates and stuff like that yet. So that one made sense as far as, I've been hearing that from folks, and so something that's local, helpful. And the other thing is that on deacon training, the most recent material that's like plug and play video is still actually pretty dated. And so there's nothing out there that's really recent. There's some recent books out there, but as far as like video curriculum or something like that, and I don't think most churches really want to pay someone to come in and do that. And you may not want to plan a special trip to go to a training for that if you could find one. And so having something local that it doesn't cost you anything because you're participating as a part of this. This is the beauty of being in associations. We can offer these things at low to no cost to our associational members, and so I think that's a real benefit. So that was good to hear. So at the moment, if that interests you, say yes, I'd love to do that. Right now, the best thing to do is just contact me and let's talk about how to do that. Okay. Number four was missions banquet. We had 18. So 18 for deacon training, 18 indicated missions banquet was of interest to them. And that one also made sense because we just did our missions banquet and we had a great turnout. We had, I think we had over 20 churches represented. We had around 80 folks there. And a shout out to Memorial Heights Baptist Church in Gonzales and their pastor, Clint Lowry, who uh, opened their doors to us. And it was just a really phenomenal time. And I do think that that is something we could conceivably put on every year. And it had good focus. It gave us opportunity to share stories. Those who receive funds from our associations to go on mission could share stories, share ideas with one another, and have a guest speaker. And Dr. Alan Carr was there, and a friend of one of our pastor, Chris Little, and that was great. So I think that that made a lot of sense. That got a lot of positive feedback. So I am thinking that that might be something that we could do every year, and it would be a benefit. And so that was cool to see. Okay, I'm going to share one other chart. Sorry, I've had the sniffles for a couple of weeks now. Goodness. One other chart that I thought was worth sharing. I may share another one too, but at least one. Which of the following ways would you like your association or DOM to minister to you? And so we had a whole list of ways in which we could be of benefit. And this was really geared more towards ministers, but not necessarily, but mostly towards ministers, where the previous question was geared towards everybody. Top four. Number one, and this one stood out as number one out of 52 respondents, 24. 24, so almost half of the respondents indicated reaching the community. I'm going to do a whole ministry minute on that you'll get, that'll be on the podcast, be an episode on the podcast relatively briefly, or in pretty shortly, I should say. And, and that's good to hear. I'm excited to hear that. And we've got two state conventions. Each one has a church revitalization emphasis. They've got ministries to help churches do just that. And not all churches may fit the need for revitalization necessarily, but they still want to reach their community, but they're not a church that is necessarily needing revitalization. But there's some elements of, for example, PAVE. We just did a 2-day intensive with PAVE. We've got a 1-day training with Regenesis. That's the SBTC church revitalization. That one's going to take place April 22nd for those who are interested. But on the PAVE side, we talked quite a bit about knowing the community and things like that. So, and I do have a previous episode on that that you can go back and look at that I did with a pastor named Sil Ornelius, and he has so many just real brief, easy, low cost community outreach ideas that he shared. And in a pretty short time, we got through several. So you can actually go and check that out. I'm going to get a drink of coffee. Hoarse from coughing so much. So, reaching community. We'll do a ministry minute podcast episode just on that. Number two, developing teams. So, a little bit of a theme there because in the first question we asked, improving teamwork was number two there. It comes in number two here as well with 19 votes out of the 20, out of the 52. And so, again, that could be ministry teams, it could be staff teams, etc. Number three was recruiting volunteers, which is always a need in any church, any nonprofit organization that leans on volunteers heavily, and the church certainly is that. So that totally makes sense. Recruiting volunteers, of course, we would say along with that, you can't just recruit them, you got to train them, and you've got to set them up for success. You got to help evaluate, let them know how they're doing, and give them a lot of encouragement along the way. So no surprise there. Nor in the last one coming in. This is top four, so it's not like the last out of. We had a lot of areas in which people could indicate they were interested in. But this is top four. So the fourth of the top four is discipleship, developing some kind of discipleship ministry or pathway to help people who go from, first becoming a Christian through being a mature believer who is serving, giving, showing up, sharing the faith, etc. And that is the heartbeat of the church, the heartbeat of, that's the Great Commission. That's what the Lord has given us to do as a church. That's our mission. Every church's mission should have something to say about or be rooted in or focused on discipleship. So that totally makes sense. And so we're always needing to sharpen that and often enough rethink how we're doing discipleship. So that's number four. Okay, let me see. Was that the last one I was going to share? Okay, so this may be more might have less interest to you, but it's helpful for me to know, so I'll mention it, and this will be the last one. I asked, how interested are you in the following ways of promoting the SCBA, GBA to your church? I wanted to know, because I think, at least our association, we got two healthy associations. We're doing some great stuff together. It's a great partnership. A lot of churches, as far as the church membership goes, they don't know about it. They don't know what an association is. They don't know what we do. They don't know what we offer. They don't know our purpose. Some don't even know we exist. And, and I get that. I totally understand. And the truth of it is the church is the most important thing, not the association. We exist to support the church and to help the church and get churches to partner together to do kingdom work. That's why we're around. So the most important thing is the church. But because the most important thing is the church, we want to be able to support the church. And we can't do that if the church doesn't know that we're there to support them. And so we want to make sure we raise awareness, let them know. And so I asked that question. And personal visit from the DOM stood out as we had over 30 of the 52 said, we are very interested in that. That's the most important thing, which is great to hear because that's what I want to do. I want to be in our churches. I want to get to know our churches, get to know their people. Challenge is we have 52 churches spread across 11 counties, 180 miles north to south. Can't get to them all in a reasonable amount of time. I'd love to be in every church in some significant way multiple times a year. It's not realistic though. So I've got to find ways to do that in a longer timeline than multiple times, a year. Can't do it, but I can be in churches regularly, and I am, and I'm thankful for the opportunities. One of the best ways is if you will invite me to something and let me know you got something going on, and I will make my day level best effort to be there. Or if you need pulpit supply, I know I'm doing a preaching interim right now, but that's going to wrap up in the end of March. And so once we get into April and beyond, and in fact, I've already got 2 Sundays in April booked to be at 2 different churches in our associations. But if you're one of those who said, I'm very interested in having the DOM be in our church, my encouragement to you is please invite me, and I will get it on the calendar. Now, if you've got a specific date, it may or may not work based on other commitments I've already made. Sorry, I feel like I'm getting more and more hoarse as I talk. So let me know, and because I promise you, I want to be there. But I do get a lot of requests, and praise God for that. I'm super thankful for that. And those requests, they get my full attention, even if I can't be there. If it's like for a preaching opportunity or to speak at something, I'm giving ideas for other people who may be able to do that. But I want to be there. I want to know about it. So if you'll let me know, or just say, hey, on a future Sunday in the next quarter or so, would you be able to come to our church and talk to us about the association? Take 5 to 10 minutes in the service, share some things that we're doing. Man, I would love to do that. And again, if I can't do it, which if you say that, I should be able to get it done. If I get tons of requests like that, one of the ideas was, well, maybe we can do some videos that you could show, kind of like if you do Lottie Moon offering, if you do Annie Armstrong, then you know what I'm talking about. They've done high quality videos, really great stuff, sharing testimonies, and I want to develop some of that so that you can make use of that in your service, and you don't have to rely on me having an open spot in my schedule. Again, not to discourage you from asking because I want to do it, but in case I can't, I'd love to have several little videos like that that are either from me or others in our association that have had a positive experience that want to share that, so like a testimony. Another idea that we had when we had our last steering committee meeting, which is like our governing board between the two associations, basically my bosses. One of the ideas was, could we send out representatives from the SCBA to our churches, whether it's ministers or members from within, who can really do a good job articulating who we are, what we're about, and how we intend to serve our churches and are serving. And that got a fair amount of interest as well. But the video and like having a week of emphasis where we're praying for the SCBA, those came in higher than the having a representative that's not me showing up. And then those basically tied, short video, week of prayer tied, and then a handout in the bulletin was like in fourth place. Graphics for your website or Sunday school or Sunday slides like you do slideshow. Having a graphic that said something about the SCBA or GBA. That came in fifth. And then the SCBA, like having a representative, actually came in last. But it had the most, so we had very interested, somewhat interested, not interested. It had the most on somewhat interested. So a strong second place or second tier positive response. There was a lot of those who were somewhat interested in that. But there was also a lot of confusion about that question. So I'll clarify that before we wrap up. The confusion was people thought I was saying that we would need individual churches to help support that financially. That's not what I was saying. I was just saying if we needed to pay like mileage and a little stipend to these folks who are going out there on our behalf, would you be cool with us using SCBA funds to do that? Not that the church would have to pay them, but that the SCBA would pay them. So I think maybe some people hesitated on that particular question because I didn't write it clearly enough for them to understand what I was meaning by helping to fund it. It wasn't the individual church; it was through the SCBA budget. So Okay, I'm losing my voice, so I'm running out of steam here. So those are some survey results. We are going to do a little bit more thorough of a dive on that as with our steering committee and with our each association's officers, and then we got a meeting at the end of the month. And so anything that we're going to do as a result of those questions, you'll be hearing about it somewhere down the road, probably. I hope to formulate at least a few game plans based on that. We can't do everything, and some things probably just need more time for us to think about and pray about. But some things I think we're clear we can jump on this right away, and I will share more about that probably at our executive board meetings coming up in April. Each association has executive board meetings in April, so I think there's a couple things we can do that we'll share in April. Okay, that's it. That's our ministry minute, which was way more than a minute.
You've been listening to the SCBA Leadership Podcast. To learn more about what's going on in the South Central Baptist area, visit our website, southcentralarea.net, and like and follow our Facebook page, facebook.com/South Central Baptist. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." So brothers and sisters serving in the local church, my encouragement to you today is to embrace these words of Paul and do not give up. Rather, as Romans 12:11 says, keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Thanks again for tuning in, and may God bless you today.